Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game from Scratch, and I'm going to throw two words at you. Open source. Now, when I say those two words, what company immediately comes to mind? Did you say Activision? No, of course you didn't, but that's what we're talking about today. Activision just released a genuinely useful and cool open source utility, and that's what we're going to look at today. So what we're talking about today is one of three Activision projects, including Struct Pack and CW data for viewing Call of Duty World League player data. We now have the genuinely useful USD Shell Extension. This is a USD, or Universal Scene Description, I think is what the acronym stands for. This is an extension for Windows under the Apache 2 open source license, which is a legit open source license that is basically enabling you to browse and use USD files directly from Windows Explorer. We're going to see it in action in just a second, but first, a little bit of a preamble. What the heck is a USD? Again, USD stands for Universal Scene Description. This is a Pixar file format, and quickly, this is becoming the future. And it's a common interchange format for moving between various different graphics programs and game engines. More and more game engines are supporting the USD file format. Blender is getting USD file format support. The Autodesk tools out there have USD file support. Houdini has USD file support. This is basically the future of open interchange in the world of 3D graphics. Also, NVIDIA Omniverse is a very big player in the USD file format. This is going to be the future of 3D. Now, USD is not a simple process at all. So if you want to go get started with USD, okay, first off, it's entirely open source, which is very nice. Again, Pixar is driving all of this, but if you want to get started, you need to have C++, C compiler, CMake, Boost, Intel TBB, Python installed, a number of external libraries, all of these various different libraries, these Python dependencies, and then you start building the code. And let's just say you are going to take a year and a half if you want to go through this process. Or what you can do instead is use NVIDIA's pre-built versions, which is exactly what I did. And I got to admit, in all honesty, even setting up USD using NVIDIA's pre-made binaries is a pain in the butt. I will give you a bit of an overview of some of the pain points a little bit later on. But the nice thing is USD is available in pre-built binary forms for Windows and Linux. Mac, I don't really care, to be honest, but there's nothing out there for you. On top of that, we've got a number of different asset examples out here. If you have an NVIDIA developer account, you can see this attic example in action, and Pixar makes available this kitchen set sample, and we're going to use both of those in this project here. So just so you know, you don't have to build USD yourself. You can use the NVIDIA version. Okay, so let's go take a look at what this new extension from Activision is all about. In order to do that, we need Windows Explorer. So here you can see standard Windows Explorer. I'll do details view. I will turn off preview. So what I've done is I've installed it and pre-configured it. So now we're going to go into kitchen set. That was one of those two examples. This is the example made available by Pixar. And you'll notice here in my, let's go extra large thumbnails, you're going to see here now, you get thumbnail previews of the scenes in action. I can also right-click them, and we've got the option of loading up a viewer for those files right there. And this will, over here, come on. It doesn't give it file focus, but it opens up in the viewer. By the way, if you did not get this working, it is because you ran into an install program. You're going to do that. I'll walk you through some of the pain points for sure in a second. We can see here, this integrates it in, so you've got this nice viewer in place. We can go even one step further, and what we can do is go View, and we can turn Preview on, and when we select something, you'll see kitchenset.usd, and here is it directly in a viewport. And we can actually come in here, we can change the render quality. We can change the way that it's shaded. We can have it do wireframe instead if we so wish. So you've got control over how the preview works over here. So let's actually go back to, I think that was smooth shaded. Also, your navigation is a little bit unintuitive, but you can hold down the Alt key and the right mouse button to orbit like so, and the left mouse button, right mouse button to zoom, left mouse button to orbit. So you can walk in and around a scene like so. Now, one of the things you're going to find about a USD files format, so you can see here, we're looking at one of the documents. Here's kitchen set USD. Well, this is actually a container for all of the various things that make up the scene. So let's navigate into it. So you can see here, we've got the assets, all the various different pieces that are available here. So sample, there's a tea kettle. Come in here, you're going to see a tea kettle is available right there. By the way, once again, thumbnails are being generated for you automatically using this extension, and you've got this integrated preview in here as well. Definitely nice, and with the fact that these USD file formats are these hierarchies like so, it does make it a lot easier to kind of visualize what's in there. It makes it easier to work with USD scenes in general. You're going to notice if you right-click on a USD, you have a number of different controls here, so you can actually create them, edit them, flatten them, package them off into various different formats. You can bring up statistics about them, so details of that particular object. So it's just nicely integrating USD files directly into Windows Explorer. Now, I've got to tell you straight off the hop, this is not something that I was ever expecting to see from Activision. It's a little bit on the shocking side. I've got that other example downloaded as well. This is like a 5 gigabyte file. So this was, 5 gigabytes compressed. It's another example. This one is provided by NVIDIA. You can download it as well. But in this particular case, you need to sign in with an NVIDIA developer account, which, by the way, are free, but just something to be aware of. A lot of the NVIDIA SDKs and game development stuff are locked behind paywall, not really paywall, sorry, a password wall. I don't really know why they go that route, but they do. Now you're going to notice this one is pretty substantial, so it took a little bit more time to open up. But here you can see the outside of our scene. So again, Alt-right mouse button, we can zoom into the attic like so, and then we can orbit, and I really wish it had WASD key navigation, because this is a confusing way to navigate around a scene. But using a combination of left and right mouse button, and then your middle mouse button is like this awkward semi-pan, I think. I'm not really sure. But that is the scene. So yeah, it gives you integrated scene viewer. And again, all this stuff is hierarchical. So you come down here, everything is in its own file there. I don't think we get anything specific to MDL files. No, it's literally just limited to the USD stuff. But that's what this extension enables you to do it. Now, to go ahead and get started with it, it's pretty straightforward. What you need to do is download this Shell Extension installer. Let me see if I can just, because I've already run it. So there are a couple of caveats, as I mentioned off the hop. In order to get this thing working, I had a few gotchas. So first off, you go into the USD Shell Extension. This is the GitHub page. I will have this in the linked article. You're going to want to go to the releases right here. There's only one. And then you're going to grab this one. Now, the key thing here is you want to grab the exact right version. So you see here, you've got one for Python 2.7, Python 3.6, and Python 3.7. Well, this is really relevant because you want 3.6, because if you're using the NVIDIA pre-installed version, this version right here, you're going to notice pre-built, it's Python 3.6 version right there. Now, what you're going to want to do is notice that this is actually Python 3.6.7 in this particular case. So what you want to make sure is that your version of Python is also 3.6.7. Now, you may not run into problems with it. I certainly did. Okay, so once you've got that installed, you go ahead and run this guy. You're going to take this USD file and basically extract it out to your drive somewhere. In this particular case, I do everything to my dev folder. So you're going to notice here C:dev. So I installed USD right here, and you're going to want to come in here and read this README file. So you're going to want to make sure that you have all of these set. Now, the key thing here is you also want to make sure when you're setting up these environment variables, so let me just go and show you. Environment variables are here in System Properties. If you're using Windows, come here to Environment Variables. Set them up as system level variables, not user. That was one of those things that went wrong. Python's pathing algorithm is a pain in the butt. And then the key thing here is you want to make sure that this Python path is set up so that it knows where everything is. You also want to create an environment variable for USD root so that it knows where you installed the USD directory to. And then the other thing you're going to need to do, other than those initial installs, make sure Python path is set up right. Make sure that Python is part of your path directory. Brute force, you're going to see I actually pushed the USD files in there as well. You may run into the same thing, but the key thing is make sure you install them as system variables, not as user variables. That was one of the things I got wrong for sure. And then you're going to want to make sure that you install PySide2 and PyOpenGL as well. And then do this test. Make sure that you run this command right here before you even try to install the extension. You want to make sure that USD is up and running correctly. You should be able to run this from the command line and get a view like so. If that does not work, if this command does not work, you're not going to get the shell extension to work. Just 100% know that that is the case. But once you've got USD up and running and working, the part of the installation process, you basically just point it to the USD root and it will work and run. But a lot of the problems are going to come down to setting those environment variables. Make sure that you've added the Python path environment variable and your root environment variable. So the UDS root and Python path. Make sure that both of those are set, and make sure that they are both system level environment variables. Make sure that you are running Python 3.6.7, that you actually install the same version from the NVIDIA version and from the Activision extension, so the 3.6 branch, not the 3.7 branch. And if you do all of those things right, you're going to only waste about an hour and a half of your life, like I did, and then have everything up and running fine. So you're going to probably, if your path doesn't work, you're going to get a bit of an error, basically saying that it could not find this thing, PXR. So if it keeps having trouble finding this one, the big thing for me in the end ended up, I created user level variables. You want to create system level variables, and I also had to use 3.6.7. Once I did all of those things, it finally started to work. Now that's not on this extension, this Activision USD Shell extension. That is on the USD file format being kind of finicky to start with. So just know that you may run into some pain getting this up and going. In terms of the USD Shell extension itself, there is some instructions on getting it up and running as well. The big thing here is, get the pathing set up right. And then on top of that, there's also some details on actually using it, what the features are. So you can see here, you've got the ability to do the thumbnails, which you can, by the way, rebuild on the fly. The preview build that we saw in action. Again, we've got some really cool tools. Like, that creating function gives you the ability to switch it into various different file formats or flatten it down. And then you've got the ability to edit USD files. This includes created USD files. The editor application can be used to set in the configuration files. So you see right there. The nice thing about these files is they're basically straight text, so you can actually edit them out pretty easily. And then, of course, you've got integration with the viewer, which we saw in action. So that is Activision's contribution to the world of open source, which, again, good on you, Activision. I'm shocked that this happened, but I am definitely happily pleased. So if you want to go ahead, check out the source code. It's available here. It's under the Apache 2 license. 73.6% of it is C++. I have no idea what NSYS is. I have no idea what NSYS actually is. If you know what NSYS is, let me know in the comments down below. What I think it probably is GitHub screwing up. But it's mostly C++ code if you want to see how it was actually implemented. And this is an extension for Windows developers to view USD files. And if you do not know about USD, if you are involved in pipelines or 3D graphics, trust me, USD is going to become very important to your life. And a lot of this was aimed originally at film-size productions, but with things like Nanite and Lumen and such in Unreal Engine, bringing polygon budgets to unlimited capacities, the production quality between a film and a game are going to become very, very similar. So I think in a lot of ways, USD, this file format could really, really become what Collada meant to be, and we can finally move away from FBX format and into something truly great. This and GLTF being more ideal for real-time assets, are probably the future of open interchange formats, and we can finally break the Autodesk monopoly, which I think is a good move. I don't think the people that make 3D graphics programs should control the 3D graphics formats, and I think that's what USD is a big step towards. And again, it's integrated into things like NVIDIA Omniverse, which I'm thinking about doing a video about. Let me know if you're interested in that. Comments down below. But this, again, open source project from Activision of all people, definitely worth checking out if you work with USD at all. And again, if you run into some installation errors, do not be surprised. Just look for the caveats I talked about. Make sure you get the right version. Make sure that you set them as system level environment variables. Make sure that you set all the environment variables, and make sure it works from the command line before you even bother installing the extension, because it will make your life hell if you haven't. Okay, hopefully you found that useful. Let me know what you think. Comments down below, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.